AU heads of state and government member are represented here by His Royal Highness Prince Guduza Dlamini, Your Royal Highness, His Majesty King Tanyi, the convener of the African Indigenous Governance Council, Honorable Minister of Intkula, our hosts, Honorable Deputy Prime Minister, Your Majesty's Kings, Your Majesty's Queens, Your Royal Highnesses, Princes and Princesses, all royalty present, Ambassador Mamba, the Ambassador of the Kingdom of Eswatini to the African Union, and my brother, members of Parliament present, ministers, delegates, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. Your Majesty's representative, I am deeply delighted and profoundly humbled to address Your Majesty's representative at this opening ceremony of the Traditional Leaders Forum, graciously hosted here in Bambane from 5th to 9th September 2025. This historic occasion comes only 6 months after His Majesty graciously welcomed the request from the African traditional leaders to convene in your kingdom after meeting His Majesty at the African Union Heads of State Summit in February this year. The swift and generous response to that request sets remarkable precedent in leadership. Congratulations to His Majesty for this record turnaround and for his vision in bringing us together. On behalf of the African Union family, and in particular, the African Commission on Human and People's Rights, I extend my deepest gratitude to His Majesty for accepting to host this forum, which speaks directly to the African Union theme of the year 2025, which is justice for Africans and people of African descent through reparations. The hospitality, generosity, and warm courtesies extended to our delegations since our arrival on this beautiful kingdom have been nothing short of extraordinary. They are truly African in nature, magnitude, and spirit. Asanteni sana. Why are we here? Your Majesties, about 500 years ago, our people were abducted and forcibly uprooted from their homes, families, and communities, and relegated to slavery, an atrocity that remains the gravest violation of human rights in history. It is recorded that millions of Africans, Africa's strongest men and women, were extracted from their roots, disrupting their ancestral links, cultural practices, and traditions, thereby depriving Africa both its sons and daughters, as well as its indigenous knowledge systems that became a foundation of other civilizations. Millions perished while crossing the Atlantic into the Americas, the Indian Ocean into the Arab world and Asia, and the Sahara Desert heading to Europe. Those who survived endured dehumanization, forced labor, and intergenerational trauma whose consequences are still felt today. The violations did not end there. Colonization further stripped Africans of land, dignity, and sovereignty. Even after independence, new colonialism has perpetuated exploitation, leaving our nations debt-burdened, resource-drained, and vulnerable to new diseases and pandemics. Your Majesties, Queens, Princes, and Princesses, the African Union Declaration of the theme of the year 2025 could not have been more timely. It builds on the condemnation of gross abuse of human rights of Africans by the African Commission for Human and People's Rights through its resolutions, inspired by the Constitutive Act of the African Union 2000, which recognizes Africa's 6th region as our diaspora. The African Commission on Human Rights Resolution 543 of 2022, long, almost 5 years ago, named Resolution on Africa's Reparations and Gender and the Human Rights of Africans in Diaspora and People of African Descent Worldwide, drew further strength from the Durban Declaration and Program of Action in 2001, whose outcomes did not fully meet the expectations of Africans and Afro-descendants. But that resolution nailed down the issues as: 1, the recognition of historical wrongs committed against Africans and Afro-descendants; secondly, the urgency of reparations, restitution, and redress; and thirdly, the need to establish permanent frameworks for healing, reconciliation, and justice. Your Majesties, the issue of reparations is beyond dispute. Indeed, reparations should have been calculated and paid immediately after the abolition of slave trade. Just as reparations were extended to other communities, such as the Jewish people, following the atrocities of the Second World War. Looking beyond financial reparations, we must also address healing and restoration. This includes, among others, 1, the return of African remains still held in European museums and graveyards; 2, the restitution of our stolen artifacts, which currently adorn foreign capitals and generate incomes in foreign museums; and thirdly, among others, a process of truth-telling and reconciliation to heal both Africans and their diaspora from centuries of distortion, propaganda, and imposed misconceptions. So what is the role of traditional leaders? Your Excellencies, traditional leaders of Africa have resolved to make a unique contribution to the AU theme of the year 2025, especially in guiding healing strategies for our people. Your Majesty, King Mswati's acceptance to host this Traditional Leaders Forum and his commitment to present their declaration to the AU Heads of State Summit in February next year is very encouraging. For too long, misleading narratives have suggested complexity of African traditional authorities during slave trade. In reality, many of our leaders resisted, suffered, and paid the ultimate price for defying slave traders. This year's theme, therefore, provides a historic opportunity for traditional leaders to make a declaration that will categorically set the record straight for once and for all. This declaration will ensure that false narratives do not undermine Africa's rightful claim for reparations and justice. Resolution 616 of 2024 of the Commission laid a solid foundation through a round table on the theme of the year. I am pleased to report to Your Majesties that some of the roundtable recommendations, such as the adoption of a decade for Afro descendants by the African Union, has already been adopted. This forum will serve as a preparation for an All-Africa Conference of Traditional Leaders in 2026, during which they are all implementing the decade of Afro descendants, and the future of governance in Africa will be discussed. It is within this context that His Majesty's leadership will be most critical, and we trust that African traditional leaders' request for his championship will find favor in His Majesty. The reed dance is an important African ceremony. His Majesty has invited delegations to attend the reed dance warmly. This annual dance has emerged as one of our positive traditional practices, which we are very proud to join the Eswatini in celebrating this year. To witness such a vibrant cultural expression during this time is a privilege, and we are honored to share in our celebratory mood of your kingdom. Your Majesties, Queens, Kings, Princes, ladies and gentlemen, I cannot conclude before thanking His Majesty and his government for a very smooth and successful promotion mission on the situation of human rights in Kingdom of Eswatini that I was part of last month. Let me salute his leadership, as well as the leadership of our convener, His Majesty King Tanyi, the convener of the African Indigenous Governance Council, and the Honorable Minister of Tikungla in this country, through His Majesty, for the wonderful work they have done in hosting this forum. On behalf of the African Union family, I wish to once again thank His Majesty for the wonderful hospitality extended to all the delegations, and we look forward to His Majesty's leadership in positioning African traditional governance within the AU governance architecture, embedded with social justice, healing, and resolution. I thank you.